Welcome back and welcome to Talk of the Nation. Now, this week, the Kampala Capital City Authority was planning to unveil a system under which street vendors would be able to operate in the Central Business District months after they were evicted. Now, that plan was called to try and stimulate business in the Central Business District. Then on Wednesday, the president put a stop to those plans, insisting that the street vendors had no room in the city. So tonight, we ask whether the city centre can thrive without street vendors or whether the remaining traders will also vacate the city centre. To help us appreciate the situation, we have Francis Kisirinya, the Private Sector Foundation Uganda Chief Membership Services. Welcome to Talk of the Nation, sir.
Thank you very much, Mildred, and thank you very much, our viewers, for being with us tonight.
First things first, help us understand a typical business in Uganda or in the Central Business District.
Yeah, we can find a typical business or a typical worker from the report that was just released by Bank of Uganda, which says the average income of a Ugandan worker, whether somebody running a business, whether somebody that is employed, the average earning per month is 150,000 shillings a month. This is a very small business. Now, if that is the case, then we can now tell that perhaps we don't have so many big businesses. What we have are very many small businesses of that type. And perhaps their survival and thriving requires sometimes people operating in very low workspaces, which don't require a lot of money in terms of rent and in terms of other facilities.
For
and
example,
perhaps,
the streets.
Yes, and perhaps that's what creates the need for people to vend on the streets.
So how important are these street vendors in the spirit of the Central Business District? Do we need them anywhere on the streets?
First of all, they are a very important component in the distribution chain of value of distribution chain of goods and of goods, most especially. Big business people import or get goods from factories here and take them to their shops, and the vendors buy and then take them to the retailers. Now, in the city, one thing that has been noted, and I think that's what the KCC was trying to look at, is that the volume of business from the shops is much higher if you have the vendors on the streets, and becomes lower if the vendors are not there on the street. So meaning that they are now an important component of the distribution chain in the city center. So
in your view as the Private Sector Foundation, what do you think needs to be done to continue to drive or stimulate businesses in the Central Business District?
Now, having realized that we really need this sort of businesses in our distribution system, I think the important thing is now to understand why are they there. So one thing that we have noted is that these street vendors will always tell you that they don't have money to rent shops, to rent in the markets. Now, what should be done is to provide additional spaces where these street vendors can actually work. Now, when you go around the central business districts, around the malls, around the big shopping complexes, now one thing that you really notice is that these complexes, when you occupy the first floor, the ground floor and the first floor, probably above that, they are empty. And because perhaps people don't feel they can go there to buy goods, and because that makes those places empty. Now, if you are looking for spaces for the vendors to work, besides the markets where we are trying to take them, we can also look at these empty spaces in the shopping buildings. Is there a way we can make and modify these shopping spaces into smaller spaces where these vendors can actually put their wares? And if they're paying very little in terms of rent, perhaps they're able to give the same prices that they give on the streets. So by doing that, you're solving this major problem. One, you have very many people who are earning very little, meaning that they need very small businesses to survive. The second one, because they are earning very little, they need to spend very little on the things that they need, on the essentials. And these are provided by the street vendors. So now, if you give them space on the top of the buildings, okay, the higher floors, They are not paying rent. They are paying very little there. Now, it means they can offer goods at almost the same prices they have been offering while on the streets, meaning that those other buyers who also need a bargain to pay little, they can move up and buy those goods. So by doing that, you are getting them off the streets and providing a livelihood for them. But also, for the owners of the buildings, they are also having tenants who occupy some of the space that they have.
But then those those empty rooms that you're talking about, the same reason the people are not, going up there to rent them. Don't you think it's the same reason that will affect these people when they get there?
When you work, the good thing that we now have State Council realizing that the street vending is part and parcel of the economic DNA of Kampala Central Business District. So now we can begin talking and understanding what things can be done to ensure that the owner, the landlord, is able to offer buildings or spaces that are empty now at concessional rates so that these people who are on the streets can take them up. So the discussion can now start. What things can be done in terms of incentives, in terms of creating security around the building so that these vendors can take up those spaces.
Yes. Now, if the current trends continue, what do you think is the likely savior of the Central Business District?
Very importantly, for the Central Business District, it has a very big advantage that it is a consolidation and a distribution center. Now, if you are a buyer or a trader, you need to go to a place where there is a lot of variety. You can see so much and decide what to buy. A lot
of variety in terms of?
In terms of the offerings of the goods you have. So the state center provides that. You cannot have that in other spaces that we are actually seeing right now, like in the suburbs. So meaning that the state center could be in a position to continue to thrive by continuing the consolidation of selling of the goods that they have. They have a lot of variety, and because they have variety, they are able to have prices that are reduced. Therefore, they are able to succeed and sell. But we need to unlock the challenges that we have there. The biggest one being the congestion. Now, if you get the street vendors off the streets and take them to the upper floors of the buildings, that one, you are almost there. The second thing is provide safety. People must feel secure when they come to the Central Business District to buy things. So provide the relevant security there. And thirdly, improve on the communication and infrastructure systems. When I buy my goods, how quickly can I get out of the state center? Do I have a bus stop where I can put my goods? Is there a roller park where I can load my goods and move? Is there train services? Now, when you have these things, it means that the Central Business District is able to play that particular role and can help very many businesses, especially the manufacturers, to be able to use the Central Business District to distribute their goods countrywide. Picking
some of your comments, it seems you're not in support of people leaving the Central Business District to the suburbs to carry out business, and yet many of them staying at the Central Business District, the businesses are not running, they're stuck, and they opt to take services closer to the people.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mildred.
Yes.
There is the feeling that if I get my business out of the Central Business District,
yes,
I can be able to do better business. Because one, I'm paying less in rent, and possibly I have a bit more customers there. But having said that, that cannot replace the work or the duty of the Central Business District, because a suburb, so to say, will never have the ability to consolidate as many goods and as many traders in the same place for consumers to have an opportunity and also be able to supply the suburbs. So it is not good planning for us to let the Central Business District to weaken. We have to do something to ensure that business returns to the Central Business District. Look at cities elsewhere across the world. Cities have built up concentration of distribution of things to ensure that by doing that concentration, you are able to cut costs, you are able to provide consumers variety. That's the advantage that there is. So you cannot have that immediately today in the suburbs, but you can have that in the central business district.
Finally, in your parting shot, speak to a city vendor out there. What will you have them do at a point of this? Many of them, their hands are tied. Many of them have lost hope. So probably a message of hope could, help them out.
Now, for the street vendors, I think it's important, and we appreciate you are looking for livelihoods, which is an important thing. You have not gotten into crime. I think continue doing what you are doing as long as the law permits you to do that. Now, if you can use the current spaces that are available according to the law. Try to look out for partnerships, try to look out for opportunities for being funded, because for many of you, you are saying that it's because of low capital that you're actually on the streets. Look up for opportunities in Small Business Recovery Fund, in a MIOGA, and the rest of the business of the funds that are available. Then you can make your lives better. I can tell you, when you continue trading, when you continue moving, opportunities will now be able to open up for you going forward.
Thank you, Francis Kisirinya, the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda Chief of Membership Services. We now take a break and return with NTV Weekend Edition.